Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay and I am the Bucks believer. In today's video, I am going to be diving into the play of Brook Lopez so far this season with a specific emphasis on the question of whether or not he has regressed. The reason why I decided that this would be a good video to make is because there were two games this week in which we saw Brook really lose a place in the closing lineup. Against the Oklahoma City Thunder last week Sunday, he played just 20 minutes, and that was largely because Bobby Portis played very well, but it's also because Lopez was really struggling with a Thunder team that was playing a lot of five-out action, with Al Horford being the only big guy in the rotation, and at times they were playing five perimeter players at a time. The same thing happened against Toronto on Thursday. Once again, Lopez played just 20 minutes, and the Raptors were really able to exploit him in those 20 minutes as they had Pascal Siakam really attack that matchup, and Lopez was fouling quite frequently, and Siakam took advantage of that and was able to get to the line on multiple occasions when that was the matchup he was faced with. So it's a question of whether or not Lopez is really going to be able to be the same level of impact player this year that he was for the Bucks last year. So let's get into this and talk about the question of whether or not he has truly regressed. In terms of basic box score numbers, Brook Lopez is contributing about the same amount this year that he did last year. Last season, he averaged 12 points and 4.6 rebounds, and this year he has almost identical numbers, averaging 10.7 points and 5 rebounds. Now, that is a very slight decrease in points per game, but it has come on better shooting, as Lopez is shooting the ball better from the field, better from the three-point line, and better from the free throw line. The most important of those stats has to be the three-point shooting, as last season he took a drop after a pretty solid performance in 2018-19, and he shot just 31.4% last year, and this season so far that has jumped back up to 35.6%. On offense, Lopez is going to be a very viable option as a floor spacing big man who is able to take advantage of the wide open catch and shoot opportunities he gets as a factor of playing alongside one of the better shot creators of open threes in Giannis Antetokounmpo. So on the offensive end, I'm not too worried about his role. He's also very capable of standing in the dunker spot, catching passes from Giannis or Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday, whoever is creating some penetration and throwing down a dunk out of the dunker spot. On defense, that's where Brook's role comes into question a little bit more. So far this season, his largest impact on the court, of course, has been his rim protection, just as it has been in each of his first 3 years with the Bucks. However, he's not been able to do as much as a rim protector, as his blocks per game has decreased from 2.4 last year to 1.4 this year, and that's not because of minutes or anything, because his block rate has also decreased from 7.9% last year to 4.6 this year. That means that he blocks 4.6% of all opponent two-point shots while he is in the game. So that kind of decrease in rim protection is definitely not something that you like to see. One reason for this potentially could be a decrease in athleticism, as we've seen shot blockers age and lose the same burst that they once have off of 2 feet, and that leads to them not protecting the rim and blocking shots at the same level that they once did. However, I really don't think that this is the case with Brook, as at one point, has he ever been a high-level athlete? No, he's able to protect the rim because of his big body, and he's able to leverage that into blocked shots for the Bucks. So the other reason why this potentially could be, and what is more likely the reason in my opinion, has to be the Bucks' defensive scheme. Mike Budenholzer has gotten a little bit more creative on that end of the court, as he has strayed a little bit away from the drop coverage scheme that he has run in his first 2 years with the Bucks, and is doing a little bit more of a switch-heavy scheme with Lopez getting up higher on ball screens and sometimes even hedging all the way out to the three-point line when matched up against guards that are capable of hitting difficult shots, someone like Damian Lillard. So that's definitely different from Lopez, as in the past he's mostly just been a guy who sat in the paint and only left the paint to avoid defensive 3-second calls. And the Bucks do still run that drop coverage with very high frequency. In an average game, they usually come out with Lopez in a drop. However, like I said, they have strayed away from it a little bit in the past couple of games, and that has led to Lopez having to guard away from the basket, which is an area that he's not super comfortable with, and as a Bucks fan, I'm certainly not super comfortable with, as he just doesn't have the necessary lateral quickness to keep guards and wings in front of him on the defensive end of the court. And that has led to his block rate decreasing because he's being drawn away from the basket and he's not able to contest as many shots as he once could. So with him not being a positive defender in a switch-heavy scheme, what is he really providing that makes him a net positive for the Bucks? That's certainly something that can be called into question, and the advanced metrics back up that sentiment. So far this season, he has a plus 0.1 defensive Raptor rating and a minus 0.7 defensive box plus minus. That comes on the heels of last season, in which he was a second team all defense player with a plus 3.3 defensive Raptor and a plus 2.5 defensive blocks minus. So he has clearly had a significant decrease in how effective he's able to be on the defensive end of the court. So has he regressed? I think that he has not. He's still the same player that he was last year and the same player he was the year before that. He's able to play his role as a floor spacer who protects the rim. However, because of the ever-changing NBA, he's not able to play in the same style that he has in the past, and that has led to his effectiveness not quite being the same. You see, there's a difference between the level the guy is playing at and the level that he's able to impact the actual results of the game, and I think that it's the latter of the two that has gone down for Brook as opposed to how good of a player he actually is. So for the Bucks, the key is the postseason. Is Lopez going to be someone who retains value there? Let's run through a few potential matchups for Milwaukee and discuss what he could potentially bring for them in a 7-game series. The number 1 seed so far has been Philadelphia after some stellar play from Joel Embiid. And I think that Lopez is probably the best one-on-one matchup that they have against Embiid, as Joel has a significant strength and size advantage over Bobby Portis. So in that type of game, yeah, I do think that Lopez could be impactful, especially since there's no real pick-and-roll ball handling threat that could punish Lopez in that pick-and-roll action. Against Brooklyn, that is a more troublesome matchup. They have a small ball lineup that could give Brook a whole lot of trouble. If he's forced to guard Jeff Green all the way out on the perimeter, he's not going to be able to do the rim protection that gives him such a large advantage on the defensive end of the court and brings him so much value. Against a team like Boston, however, he does have some value because Daniel Tice isn't quite the same high-level three-point shooter that someone like Jeff Green is, and clogging up the paint against two high-level wing scorers like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is quite valuable. On the other hand, against Toronto, who plays with a lot of smaller lineups and has a lot of speed on their team, as we saw on Thursday, Lopez is probably not the most viable option in those games. So, as you can tell based off of those few matchups, there are some times when Brook is going to be a valuable player for the Bucks and someone who's going to be counted on to play big minutes, but there are other times where Bobby Portis is probably the better option to close out games at the 5. So Brook is still a valuable player for the Bucks, and he's probably still their 4th best player behind Giannis, Chris, and Drew Holiday. However, I don't necessarily think that he's someone who can be the 4th best player on a team that makes a deep postseason run, and that's definitely a fearful sentiment for Milwaukee. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Brook Lopez situation in the comment section down below. Leave a like, and if you enjoy all things Bucks, be sure to subscribe. This is the place for you. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.